Ooh, hello there. Yes, last few days before Easter. It'd be quite nice to have a bit of time off, I must admit. Yes, anyway, and the weekend. There were a couple of brouhahas. Yes. In London in particular, there was an angry black clad mob that tried to storm a building. It's Antifa at it again, etc. So my thoughts today were very much with notions of violence. Now, those of us on the left picks up a copy of books. Those of us on the left are sort of familiar with works such as Zizek's Violence, and there's quite a long history going back, certainly to the 1970s, of this notion about state violence. A lot of people find it very hard to get their heads around it because such is the nature of the hegemony, it's Gramsci again, that state violence, in whatever form it is always presented as legitimate, and the reaction to that violence is always seen as illegitimate. So, this weekend we had Claire Fox that posted this up from Julie Blindell. I'll get onto both of those in a bit, about the first Do No Harm conference, which was, there was a bit of scuffle in real terms for a couple of minutes at the front of it. But it's intriguing to have a look at the Telegraph and GB News and the Mail and the way that they described it, because they were talking about a mob, inevitably. If it's more than two people, it's a mob. Mainly black clad, they said. We'll come on to that one as well. And yes, a smoke bomb was thrown. It's just that there were no arrests and it all was over in about a minute. But of course, it allowed people to become very upset, because we can't have the mob ruining people's events. But when groups of people meet to plot harm against others within the body politic, that can lead to, in real terms, violence, then people need to react to it. It might just be turning up outside and shouting a bit, even if you are a member of CBBS. That won't go down so well. Think of the children. But also at this weekend, Posey Parker was out in Roundhay Park, and nothing happened, okay? You'll notice the group is mainly black-clad, and there's a mob of them, obviously. I do notice that Posey Parker is wearing a Union Jack. I'm not quite sure about bastardising that. I suppose it's okay as long as it's not Nike. No doubt she'll be selling those as part of her future clothing line. But when we look at the kind of interconnectedness of these people, like, for example, Posey Parker will often post up really vile stuff, which is simply an apologist for fascists. Okay, this is from Melbourne. The bloke in the sunglasses there doing the violence has been identified as a neo-Nazi, and there were lots of neo-Nazis at a particular event in Melbourne. Previously, Kelly J. Keane has suggested that black-clad Nazi-saluting people at her events down under were Antifa in disguise. Yeah, obviously they are. Antifa are going to do that. The anti-fascists are going to turn up to you even though you're not a fascist. Leave that one hanging in the air, of course. But the actual violence that is done, I'll come on to, the tangibleness of that. But, Graham Linehan, think about the violence that he regularly espouses. Someone like me is a nonce or a paedophile, and I seek to mutilate children. I want to cut them, and I want to sterilise them. This is just, the standard stuff. Just go on his Twitter feed. You can see all of these words within 24 hours. And he puts out stuff like this, in the sense that he fully identifies with very nasty viewpoints like Douglas Murray. Yeah, he fully is on board with this notion of killing people in the name of being on the right side. Think about that in terms of violence. Yeah, but to come back to this wider notion, when a group of people are threatened by state violence, and by state violence that can take a multitude of different forms, and we often see this in rioting. Think about the riots that happened in 2011. that was actual violence that started that off with the state. Someone was shot, but a lot of it was people feeling alienated, that classic enemy from society. Think about the riots of the 80s and the way that was thought of. Think of PC Blakelot. Yeah, still the name you associate with Broadwater Farm, but not the original death that kicked it off. And the state will mete out violence, a la Zizek, but the reaction to it is seen as something dreadful. The actual violence that is occurring is not really spoken of. You mustn't be violent, but you must be passive when we're violent to you. So yeah, I mean, and those people that know this, and this is the thing, some of these people know this. I mean, think about Claire Fox, who is the political wing, if I can put it that way, of Spiked magazine. She's there to ensure that Frank and Brendan are kept in the comforts that they need. But she acts as this very much legitimate political voice. Baroness Fox within the parliamentary system, but she is quite happy to support some grossly horrible thing that kick down on minorities, particularly trans issues, and she should know better. She certainly is fully aware of notions of violence from the left because of her background. Julie Blindell is another one who, until very recently, was writing about the dangers of getting in bed with fascists. Yeah. It's all out there on the web. As a feminist, I mean, I remember because I'm old enough to be of the same age group as those two women. I'm fully aware of women in the 1980s and where they came from. That level of feminism, I'm fully there with it and would have fully supported it. However, when one ends up being an apologist for kicking at minorities, and when one thinks of oneself as a truly radical feminist while sharing platforms with people that regularly get articles written in the Daily Mail, one should realistically question exactly what you're doing, because it's slightly dodgy, isn't it? Yes. If you're going to enact violence against people, however symbolically that might be, you have to expect a reaction, and you're going to get one. And that's fine, if you like. That's the rough and tumble, to a certain extent, of protesting. But don't, whatever you do, decide to turn a blind eye when you get a whole bunch of fascists turning up, thumping people in your name. Don't think that's on. Anyway, yeah, do have a think about symbolic violence. I can wholeheartedly recommend whole book up, Violence by Zizek. Very interesting read. You can read lots of other people. I know someone like Althusser, maybe from the 1970s, who goes into these very, very similar concepts. And yes, think about that enigmatic structure. Think about postmodernist views a la Gramsci, and you might actually get there. Claire has. Julie has. They just pretend that they haven't. It's beyond Glinner and it's beyond Posey Parker. And even if it wasn't beyond them, it doesn't fit into their business model. And that in itself is its own form, in particular, of violence. The capitalist system. Oh yeah. Anyway, do have a lovely day. I'm going to get on with stuff today, I suppose. Trundling through to a nice long weekend. Yeah.